So we are moving to the next presentation. The topic is designer approaches to the heritage textile craft amalgamation in hand knitting, local adaptation of hand knitting technology. Authored by Kasturiarachchi, SCW, and co-authored by Vikramasinghe, DPUM. Now I would like to invite Ms. Kasturiarachchi to present you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Sanduni Kasturiarachchi from the Department of Integrated Design. Today I'm excited to share my research on design approaches to the heritage textile craft amalgamation in hand knitting, local adaptation of hand knitting technology. Since ancient time, crafts has been a significant part of Sri Lankan economic and social life and have made a major contribution to the growth of the entire economy. Here I'm talking about our local hand knitting craft industry. So my research question is created to answer how Sri Lankan fashion designers have approached to heritage textile craft amalgamation with hand knitting technology to adapt to the local context. In order to narrow down my problem, here I have key pointed several points. And also, through this, I exaggerate aims and objective. So, my first main goal is to identify our Sri Lankan hand knitting industry and its strengths and weaknesses. And also, to understand the local designers' contribution towards the hand knitting industry and the amalgamation, and to identify other heritage textile craft that can be amalgamated with hand knitting. In the end, the main approach is to give a new knowledge to the local designers who attempt to form a new designs related hand knitting into the local context. As for my research methodology, I have selected literature review and case studies as my main approaches, and also the entire study is conducting by qualitative research methodology. So in my research, there are three main components, which is hand knitting, heritage textile craft, and the craft amalgamation. If I deeply go through what is hand knitting, so hand knitting is a process of looping yarn around two or more needles to form a collective of interconnected loops that will eventually become a finished clothing item or another sort of a fabric. So in Sri Lanka, our knitting communities have engaged in this handcraft for almost 30 years with knowledge, experience, and with very high skills. So these are some design approaches in hand knitting where in the global context and also in the local context where our designers have approached towards the hand knitting. Heritage textile craft. When we talk about the heritage textile craft, Dumbara weaving, Biralu, batik, crochet, macram are some of the textile crafts that we have in the Sri Lanka. And these crafts can be integrated into different way, and the designers have incorporated it with different ways. As you can see in the slide, here are some examples where I mentioned where our local designers have integrated their methods into the collections. Moving on with my third major key point, which is a craft amalgamation. So amalgamation simply means the result of combining, and the term amalgamation describes mixing of cultures as opposed to one group or another. So my research is based on case studies for the comparative analysis for the research. And these case studies have been picked out by targeting Sri Lankan heritage textile craft under the categorization of textile construction techniques and textile surface design techniques. So these are the main three case studies that I have selected. First one is the designer Himesh Rajapaksha's final year project. And the second example is Art Room Ceylon, where Art Room Ceylon is a well-known knitwear brand in Sri Lanka. And also the third example is from designer Amesh Vijaysekara's brand called Amesh. If I briefly go through the case study 1, what I identified is the main approach is to create a seamless dynamic variable collection to enhance a huge potential that can be integrated of hand knitting craft with other heritage textile techniques like Dumbar weaving, crochet, macrame, bobbin lace. If I get through these keywords, what I identified is the geographical possibilities, because through this I identified, since all the craftsmen in Sri Lanka are scattered all over in Ireland, it was geographically challenging to interact with them. And also the second main key element what I identified is its textile construction, the structural possibilities. So to amalgamate different textile craft, one main point is to identify is the structural qualities of each crafts. So according to designer Himesh, he stated that he had to do a lot of experiments to identify the each craft's structural qualities. And also the designer artisans collaboration. Even though they are very fast with their day-to-day the techniques, they face many difficulties in adapting into different methods. So here are some integration methods that he have used using hand knitting and other textile crafts. Moving on to the case study 2, Art Room Ceylon. So it's a label that designer Kasturiarachchi and designer Uday Wickramasinghe established. So the brand's aim is to celebrate the fusion of craft and fashion concept by integrating local craft knowledge. So craft amalgamation, to show heritage craft amalgamation possibilities, this brand first introduced a wax knit where they hybrid crafting potential of batik and hand knitting techniques in textile surface development and silhouette building. Another main thing we are identified in this case study is in the wax knit collection, they first worked with knitters and then a wax batik was done. So it's the same knitting process and an extra step towards another craft was taken. So in here I have mentioned the wax knit where they integrate the wax batik and also with hand knitting, and also they have taken different approaches as well, like the embroidery techniques. Moving on to the case study 3, Amesh Vijaysekara's the brand Amesh. So he worked with different skilled knitters, crocheters and hand weavers to create his collection aiming to combining traditional methods. So his silhouettes mainly focuses on how to play different materials by hand knitting. So he experiment with several knitting techniques that increase usage of unusual materials in an ideal way. He used different gold threads, wools, different kind of fabric pieces, fancy yarns and many more. He frequently collaborates with expert artisans from all around the island, including those who work in the knitwear, crochet and handloom industry. Moving on with my research finding, if I comparatively analyze everything, so all these three case studies, the nature of them look same, but their approaches are a bit different on one another. Because when combining various heritage textile crafts in Sri Lanka, the geographic location emerges as an important factor, since all of our craft communities are located throughout Sri Lanka, and it was difficult and time consuming to compile all of this expertise into one location. And another main thing, the structural possibilities of the various textile crafts were one of the key issues that were raised in these case studies. When combining different crafts, one should take the structural characteristics into consideration. Especially, it is difficult to combine woven and the non-woven craft techniques. And also, Mixing diverse textile crafts with different threads are the primary elements of all these three projects. As for the conclusion, I can conclude that when considering all these case studies, there are high possibility to execute craft amalgamation, even though it can be challenging. The process of the amalgamation might be difficult, but steps have been taken into order to eliminate such difficulties in their design processes. Since hand knitting is a global craft, the concept of amalgamation has been selected in order to adapt to the craft locally. As for the future studies, throughout the research, it was mentioned about the different design approaches in order to adapt it into the local context. But the local craftsmen can also use different techniques in order to adapt locally, and that can be taken it as a further study. This is the overall my research framework. That's about it. Thank you.